in a previous conversation we had, you said something that really rung in my mind, which is that many people who become addicted to things have this feeling that normal life isn't interesting enough, that they are seeking a supernormal experience, and that the day-to-day routine, balance, which is actually in the title of your book, Dopamine Nation, Finding Balance in the Age of Indulgence, that the word balance itself can sometimes be a bit of an aversive term for people. And I'm struck by this idea, and the reason I want to explore it is because so much of what I see online is about generating a lack of balance, about being tilted forward at all times, really leaning into life hard, experiencing life, living a full life. Even the commencement speech given by Steve Jobs on this campus was really about finding passion, digging, that's so much in the narrative now. So maybe you could just tell us a little bit about your experience with this association, if it really exists, between people's sense of the normalcy, or maybe even how boring life can be, and their tendency to become addicts of some sort.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that life for humans has always been hard, but I think that now it's harder in unprecedented ways. And I think that the way that life is really hard now is that it actually is really boring. And the reason that it's boring is because all of our survival needs are met, right? I mean, we don't even have to leave our homes to meet every single physical need, as long as you're of a certain level of financial well-being, which frankly, we talk so much about, the income gap, and certainly there is this enormous gap between rich and poor, but that gap is smaller than it's ever been in like the history of humans. Even the poorest of the poor have more excess income to spend on leisure goods than they ever have before in human history. If you look at leisure time, for example, so people without a high school education have 42% more leisure time than people with a college degree. So my point here is that life is hard now in this really weird way, in that we don't really have anything that we have to do. So we're all forced to make stuff up. Whether it's being a scientist or being a doctor or being an Olympic athlete or, climbing Mount Everest. And people really vary in their need for friction. And some people need a lot more than others. And if they don't have it, they're really, really unhappy. And I do think that a lot of the people that I see with addiction and other forms of mental illness are people who need more friction. Like, they're unhappy, not necessarily because there's something wrong with their brain, but because their brain is not suited to this world.
And do you think they have that sense, my brain isn't suited to this world, or they simply feel a restlessness and they're constantly seeking stimulation?
I think that's right. Yeah, I think it's not really knowing what's wrong with me. Why am I unhappy? How can I be happier? And of course, as you talk about, what's so pervasive in our narrative now is like, find your passion, find your, whatever it is to save the world. And in a way that's good, because it has people out in the world and seeking. But in a way, it can also be misleading in the sense that I think people aren't entirely aware that the world is a hard place, and that life is hard, and that, like, we're all kind of making it up.